Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffe Kennedy, author of epic fantasy romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Oh, it's so good. Today is Say It With Me, people. Not that. It's Friday! February 28th, last day of February. Oh, my coffee is so good that I'm inhaling it unwisely. So, for those of you who are on video and keen eyed, actually, you probably can't tell, I've switched back to having a latte. I was monitoring my weight to see if it made a difference, and I don't think that it does. I'm doing oat milk lattes. Finally found the thing that I like. Didn't like soy milk, didn't like almond milk, but I was feeling like even when I had a latte within my technical non-fasting hours that I was really noticing the milkiness, the creaminess, the dairy. A friend of mine who has gotten a prostate cancer diagnosis found out, I don't know, he's been reading too much stuff on the internet. We know how that goes. But he found out that apparently dairy contributes a whole lot to the development of prostate cancer. So now he's quit dairy. I'm like, well, you don't have to quit now. You already have it, right? But so it goes. And for happiness metrics, having my latte again is definitely up there. All right, so I have a lot of things to tell you all today, besides coffee-related hijinks. Let's see, I've even got a list. I'll give you a little update on actual writing type things. I've had a great week writing-wise, been working on this revision. I'm 89 pages through out of, I'm at 25%, 26%. We'll give myself the extra 1%. It has taken me, how many days? Well, today doesn't count, right? Because I haven't worked today yet. So it's taken me 7 days, a week. Well, not really. I mean, it depends on, my weeks are 5 days long. Anyway, 7 days to get through 26%, which means it's probably going to take me about as long as I think it will. Hopefully it'll start going a little faster. I've added 2 entire new chapters. I did a lot of reworking. I've added 12,000 words, or at least I've put in. Let's see, yeah, I think I've added about 12,000 words. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm not being as scrupulous on my adding and subtracting. I'm taking things into the outtakes file and parking it and bringing it back in. So, yeah, who knows? But this is going to be a very good month, nearly as good as last month. So I'm feeling productive. I'm happy with the revision. There's a lot of stuff coming out in this revision that was not in the first one that's going to make it so much richer and actually is making it make more sense. So Allie's a great editor. Deanna's very insightful too. Deanna. And yeah, needed to be done. For all my whining, it is really nice to work with really good professional editors like this. When people ask, and usually it's self-publishing authors, indie authors, ask, like, what's the point of working with traditional publishing? You have no control, and you don't get as much money, and blah 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 blah. All their reasonings, and one of the reasons is to work with a really great editor. There's even been movies about editor-writer relationships, and I realize that sort of in our tech bro world where everybody thinks that like the language models are going to take over writing and we won't have to do it anymore. Although, did you all see that thing that Microsoft actually came out with a study showing that people who use the AI tools that like ChatGPT and so forth lose critical thinking skills? because boy, we need more of that in our society. Yet another reason not to use them. But yeah, working with a really great editor is, pardon the analogy, it's like fantastic sex. Yes, you can do it on your own and be fine. And sometimes that's better than working with someone terrible, right? But you get the right partner, you get someone who gets you and you get them, then you build this thing between you that's greater than yourselves. And it's awesome. So along those lines, thank you all. We've had tons of applications for the ARC team. Corrine has been sorting through them. We'll probably leave it open through today or this weekend. It'll be her call, but we're going to wrap that up. Speaking of wrapping things up, today's the last day of the campaign, the Vow for Girls campaign. If you're going to donate, please donate. We need to end child marriage. I know there's a lot of things in the world on fire, but 9-year-old girls being married off to grown men is a horror that we need to stop. All right, other things. So I talked about this. Oh, tip-in sheets update. I got my second batch, the replacement batch. For longtime listeners, you will recall what we're talking about. These are the sheets that I'm signing that will go into the Owl Crate edition of the book of Never the Roses. And the original shipment had a bunch of messed up pages. So they sent me like tons more people. So I don't know the exact number, but I can tell you that it is 83.5 inches. And before these came, I was over halfway through. Now I am at, oops, I opened the wrong sheet. I'm at 42%. But I just have to be done by March 17th. So that's all right. My Zencaster is being very strange again. My video seems to have gone away, but I'm just going to assume that it's still okay. And okay, so sorry, this is being weird, and I don't know what it caught and what it didn't catch. My video came back, but it was paused. Anyway, 42% through tip-in sheets. Have to do less than 2 inches per day between now and St. Patrick's Day. Totally doable, right? Should be fine. One thing I wanted to tell you all, first of all, Reluctant Wizard is officially wide. Again, it is no longer in Kindle Unlimited, so it's available everywhere. I'm not going to do Kindle Unlimited anymore. I know I keep saying this, like every time I try it, I find that I don't make that much money on it. I get talked into trying it again. For those who don't know, that's Amazon's subscription plan, right? But you have to be exclusive to Amazon. And so what I found was, and I put all of the Bonds of Magic, Renegades of Magic books in there. I put the Sorceress Moon's books in there. So I had a good, that was what one of my friends said, that I needed a substantive library in there for readers to consume. And people did. I mean, I had very nice page reads. Nothing to complain about. But what I found is that I made the same amount of money off of Amazon, having all of those books in Kindle Unlimited, as I did with having them just for sale. And then I didn't have the income on those books from the other retailers. So I'm just not going to do it anymore. Besides which, I don't know how many people are actually boycotting Amazon, but I think that's a reason not to be exclusive to them. I don't feel like anyone should have to patronize a part of the oligarchy. You can always get my books directly from me via my website. Okay, so... speaking of Reluctant Wizard, The audiobook is up on YouTube now. I put it up on there for free. For free, I'm putting that in air quotes because I do get money for listens, right? Because they play ads, just like they do at the beginning of this podcast. If you listen on YouTube, you will have had to sit through probably like a VRBO ad, which, I like getting VRBOs. We've had very good luck with those. So, sorry, but it is income for me. And, I wish I were independently wealthy, but I'm not. And the audiobooks, putting them on there for free, reaches, people can listen to it without paying anything. But yeah, there are ads. And I'm sorry that they're frequent ads, but it's amazing to me that I get people commenting with complaints about that, saying, well, it's such a great book and a wonderful listen. And the audiobook narrator is amazing. She is Deborah Baum. Her voice is like caramel. She's incredible. She does such a great job. It's, they're like raving about the listening experience and saying, too bad my pleasure is interrupted by all of these ads. And I someone commented that just recently, and I replied and I said, how you can have an uninterrupted listening experience? You could actually buy the fucking audiobook. Not even that. You can rent it from the library. You can get it through your Audible subscription. You can get it through your Everend subscription. You could pay probably $10 or $12 or a library card. There are a lot of ways to listen to these audiobooks where I still get paid, right? Because, that wonderful book that you raved about, I spent time writing that book. That's how I'm making my living. That's how we keep the lights on. Uh, my narrator, she's amazing. She do not come cheap. I pay her. I pay the production costs. That's an investment on my part. It's a weird form of entitlement. This whole, well, I don't want to have to listen to ads, but I also don't want to have to pay. Now, I'm a solid Gen Xer. I think many of you listening are. It's interesting how, like, sort of the way the population is whittling out. This is our time. I know so many more Gen Xers now than I feel like I even knew in high school. But it makes me mad if I have to both pay and listen to ads. Like the Netflix model is that. More and more of these companies are doing that. They figure we're so used to paying for the streaming that they can also make us listen to ads. And for me, it should be a trade-off. Either I pay or I listen to ads. I don't want to have to do both. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with all of you. I know some of you who listen to this podcast or watch this podcast on YouTube are also the audiobook listeners. And, you people are amazing. I am happy. I'm delighted to put these books up on YouTube. I know that not everybody can afford to get the Audible subscription, or you don't have access to a library, or all of these things, and that's fine. That's part of why I do this. But, I'm sorry if the ads are annoying. Just every time you hear an ad, think of that you're buying a coffee pod for me. All right, moving on from that. Audiobook comment, tip-in sheets. Oh, okay. I wanted to talk about metric for success. And I have to go meet someone for coffee soon, so I'm going to try to get through this quickly. I also have to get the brakes done on my Jag today. Eep. So, success. Success is such a subjective thing. We're living in this era where we're looking at Elon Musk becoming possibly the first trillionaire in existence, which is a kind of money that we can't really imagine how much money that is. And frankly, it's not real because he hasn't sunk in so much stuff. It's like the net value of this or that. It's play money. And it's basically about power, right? At that point, it's not about what you can buy. It's just the having the power to do things like control the president of the United States. Um, we won't go off on that tangent. But so I have, a number of mentees in my Discord, as many of you know, and people get frustrated. This is not an easy business. I almost feel like I need a podcast saying, you know, Jeffy Kennedy's first cup of coffee, and this is not an easy business. People get into it thinking, you can work from home and you get to tell your stories, and which is amazing. Don't get me wrong. It's an incredible job to have, but it is also not easy. I mean, for want of a better word, it never stops being difficult. Okay, there are always challenges, which kind of lends to what makes it an amazing job, right? It's there's always something new to learn. There's always a new book to push yourself on, a new metric to try, but what you want to get out of it just varies from person to person, right? And I think it's so important to remember that, because we have these very loud voices out there saying, well, if you do my 5-point promo plan, then you will rank in the top 100 of the Kindle store, and you will make all of this money, and you will stay there, and you'll get the Kindle bonus, and you'll hit a bestseller list. And there's all these formulas for all this stuff. And sometimes it works, yeah, sometimes it works great. Other times, not so great. And it's not a mathematical formula. It is not a chemical formula. It is not science. It is art. And why you can do exactly the same thing as somebody else and not hit a list, nobody knows, right? But also, you have to weigh how important it is, because there are people who will say, oh, well, you have to hit a list. And I hear, I know all sorts of people who've hit, like the USA Today bestseller list with their books, and then it stops there. Like, you might make some money, you might pay off some bills, which is always great. It's a great measure of success, right? Being able to pay your bills. I think it's noteworthy that someone even like Elon Musk, a lot of things we hear about is like whether or not he can pay this or that bill, because of course he's working on this monumental scale that none of us are, but it's like, even that basic metric of being able to just pay your bills, for some reason that doesn't quite go away, right? They just change form. So one thing I do when I'm doing one-on-one coaching, and I advise you all on here, is to write down what it is you want from writing. What is it that you want to get from it? Because it's very easy to get caught up in this thing of, oh, I want to be in the top 100 Kindle store, and that will make me a success. Someone was telling me, who's a fairly new writer with new books and still trying to build an audience, like less than 100 reviews on Goodreads still. There's no shame in that. It takes time. And I'm always reminding people, this is a long game. Those people who blaze up fast and hot make it seem like it's not a long game. But I can promise you, I know people who blazed up fast and hot 20 years ago, and they are gone now. So, long game, people. Be in it for the endurance. Be in it because you love it. This gal who, has her few books, and she's been listening to me. She's working on her long game and enjoying the journey, enjoying what she's doing. But she had a friend, some writer, who was saying how she felt that she was inadequate, or her books were inadequate, or her career was inadequate. And I thought, what an amazing word to use. Inadequate is full of judgment. But she was doing so much better than the gal who had told me about it, looking at just these metrics, looking at the numbers. And I think that, what does that mean? I have a friend who really doesn't care. I mean, she likes getting paid money, but it's much more important to her to have approbation from a very specific literary community, to be given awards or to be nominated for things. That's what matters to her for her writing. She It's important to her when another writer that she admires says that her work is good. Uh, I mean, we all like that, but you rank these things. You decide what things matter to you most. And I think you could probably do this with anything in life, but don't get distracted by what other people tell you you should want. Um, David asked me this morning what I would do if I had $1 trillion. And I said, I don't want $1 trillion. Um, and he said, well, okay, like a billion or a million, what would you do with it? And I'm like, I would probably, once I got things set up the way I wanted it, with, all my people in good housing and bills paid off and all of that, I would put the money towards causes, which is what a whole lot of people do, like Melissa Gates. Anyway, I'm going to wind it up there. I hope that you all have had a good week. Uh, do that exercise. Write down your goals, your metrics. What do you want from your whole life? When you look back, and what will be a life well lived? What do you want out of your writing career or your other creative career? Um, the things that we really want are not the things that our capitalist society tells us we want. There's a little hint. All right. I'm heading out. You all have a great weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday. You all take care. Bye bye.